Hey, what's up everybody? I'd like to welcome you and your eyeballs back to the channel for another track guide. Today we're going to take a look at the ARCA car around Michigan International Speedway. Slightly different format for today. We're going to jump straight into the lap. So as usual, we're going to take the top side to carry as much momentum at these larger tracks so that we can fire down that straightaway with as much speed as possible. Now because you're on cold tires, be aware the top side gets pretty sketchy loose, so you don't want to lose it coming out of the corner. Now ease the car down to the bottom of the track. That cuts a little bit of distance out of your lap and gives you a touch more momentum because you're going downhill. Now we're looking for the caution light that we're just about to pass now. In between here and the 3 signs on the wall, that's where you want to start breathing out of the throttle. You want to look for the car to feel a little bit loose as you initially start to turn in, but not too much or you end up chasing the back of the car instead of cornering and actually getting it to turn. You're looking to back out of the throttle enough so that the car doesn't over-rotate and start to spin, but you keep enough throttle on to keep it rotating. So there's this very fine line. And you also want to get down to that bottom scene we were at. You don't want to go below that because the banking changes a bit down there, and if half of the car is below that line, then it gets very loose throughout a run. So pretty much what you're looking for on that entire turn is the rear of the car is really kind of wanting to step out and you're holding it on that really nice slip angle. It's very easy to kill the right front here, so you really want to make sure that as you come out of the corner, you're able to unwind the steering wheel. So heading into turn 3, once again passing the caution light, and just past the caution light is when you're going to start breathing out of the throttle. Once again, you can see that the car is beginning to rotate. We're holding enough throttle to keep that rotation and let the car drive down to this darker seam in the track. Then we begin to throttle back up. You have to be very careful on this side of the track because the car does want to get a bit looser. You can see I got to fight it right there. There's also some bumps in this lane, so just be aware of those. But once you get the throttle down, you can kind of let the car track out towards the wall and then turn it back down like you did to start your qualifying lap, and that is going to set you up for a pretty decent lap around Michigan. If you do find that throughout the race your car is getting too tight, just back up your corner entry a little bit. So let out of the throttle a little bit sooner and pick up the throttle a little bit later. Let the car rotate. Let it do its thing. Trust the tires. And be patient with the car. You don't really want to be pushing and do qualifying laps throughout the entire race. And why is that? Because you want to be aware the 4-wheel slide. So you don't want to end up looking like these cats because if the car starts doing a 4-wheel slide, that's kind of what you're going to feel like going through the corner. All 4 tires are just struggling for grip and you end up kind of going straight on whatever trajectory you've set yourself on throughout the corner. So I was able to pull some examples of me doing this in one of the races. So this is later on in the run. This is lap 24. And by now we're having to let out of the throttle a little bit more to get the car to turn because the right front tire is getting a bit worn. But you can see I got back to the throttle too soon and too aggressive, and so the car just does this 4-wheel slide up towards the wall, and no amount of adding steering is going to help. So usually this is caused by the car getting in a tight condition anyway, so the right front tire is starting to wear, and picking up the throttle too early while not having the car rotated properly. All of those factors mean that basically the car just runs out of grip. So if you do notice this starting to happen to you, don't back out of the throttle completely. What that'll end up doing is making the car kind of snap straighter. So it's going to turn even less, if that makes sense. What you want to do is just gently back out of the throttle so that the car begins to lose speed while it's continuing to kind of rotate. So eventually you might slow down enough so that the tires kind of grip back up and the car starts turning just enough to keep you off the wall. It's kind of inevitable here that it's going to happen to some degree, but one of the ways you can kind of help alleviate it or make sure it happens maybe a little later in the run is to just back up your corner entry a little bit and not be so aggressive with your throttle application. When you get ready to actually feed the throttle back in, doing it nice and smooth will help the car continue to rotate and it won't pick up the front end, so you might not have this 4-wheel slide be quite as bad. Now here, I don't take my own advice. I get back into it and I don't realize it until too late. And once I let out of the gas, it's too late. And even though I was adding steering and trying to let out of the gas, I still hit the wall anyway. Thankfully, it was the last lap, which is kind of why I just went full send. And I didn't lose any positions, but definitely don't want that to happen earlier on in the race. Now, choosing the right lane at the right time is a lot of the battle on an oval. Here at Michigan, ideally you want to keep the nose of your car in fresh air. If you're behind somebody and you're this close, you're actually getting less air to the nose of your car, and it's going to make you use more steering and more front tire to get through the corner. So I'm choosing to go about half a lane up to a lane up from Russ Wheeler here in front of me. Because the top side has a bit more momentum, even though through the actual corner I'm going a little bit further of a distance and lose a little bit of time, I gain that time back because I've got momentum, and I'm not killing my front tires by trying to stay directly behind him. And that's kind of the idea that I keep trying to go with here. If he's in the top side, I'm going to try to take the low side. Anything I can do to keep the front end of my car in clean air. Because like I'm trying to stress, it's so important that you don't kill the right front tire here. Once you get a little bit of distance in between you and the car you're following, it's okay to go directly in their line, because you're not going to be experiencing too much of a aerodynamic difference. But when you are close, try to take a different line. Throughout a run, consider splitting your time between the high lane and the low lane. As I've experienced it, the low side of the track is going to make you work your right front tire a bit harder and wear it out a little quicker. The top side of the track is going to have you driving the car off of the right rear a little bit more, and you'll use less steering input, which might help that right front tire. But you don't want to be too aggressive on either one. Overheating or wearing out either of your right side tires is going to hurt you in the long run. So try to split your time between the top and the bottom of the track. And if you and somebody else are racing pretty hard, and let's say you're on the low side, and you don't want to be down there anymore, there's no shame with maybe backing out and letting them take that line, and then actually following them and working with them to try to catch up to the cars in front of you, so that you don't lose any more time or wear out your equipment. As a final gauge for all of you watching the video, typically at the end of my races here, my right front tire has been maybe in the mid 50s, 55, 58 range, and my right rear tire has been about 65 to 70. So that's a good goal to shoot for. And with that, we conclude another track guide video. Thank you all so much for being here to watch these and tuning in. If you found it helpful, please tell some more iRacers or sim racers about them. I want to help as many people as possible really just dive in and enjoy this hobby, because I do think it's a truly special and unique one. So thanks everyone. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hey, P.S. Be on the lookout for street stock guides.